So I'm using my flat 1/2 inch brush here and just blending the paint in a circular fashion. Don't worry if the circles aren't perfect. You can actually blend them with your fingertips afterwards. But if you want really neat circles, you could actually draw these in advance as well. The photo link and a full list of materials can be found in the description below. Just click show more. You can see here I'm just blending and actually picking up colours from other circles on there, so I'm getting different sort of effects, and it's actually really fun to do and quite therapeutic, more than I thought actually. So I'm just blending away here. If you don't want to get your fingertips messy, you can always just carry on doing this with a brush or put some gloves on, so up to you. So the painting has dried now, and what I'm doing is I've watered down some buff titanium and some yellow with a touch of orange, and I'm doing a glazing technique, which is it's a transparent glaze over the top here, just to push them back a little bit, making them look a little bit more like they're in the background, a little bit more blurry. So you must make sure you do this wet on dry. And you can glaze with any colour really, and that's why I've used the yellow, the buff titanium and a touch of orange. Already there's kind of like a milky wash here, quite opaque but not too opaque that you can't see all those underpainting of circles there. Use a large brush and blend, and then allow your painting to dry again. This next stage I'm actually blending, it's a little bit more yellow there in places, just to sort of cover up some of those brighter oranges. They're just coming through and appearing to be more blurry, and I just love this because it just creates a lovely background but also such lovely depth as well. So the painting has dried, and I've drawn an outline of this nuthatch bird. Any bird will do actually. And what I'm doing now is I'm going to paint the branches. This is Paynes grey and burnt sienna. Any sort of dark colour will do. If you don't have Paynes grey, you could use black, burnt sienna, black and red, sort of anything to create a dark. And I'm just sort of scumbling this with my flat 1/2 inch brush and scrubbing it onto the surface of this acrylic paper. I've actually put some washi tape around the edge as well, yellow washi tape, so you'll get a nice white border afterwards. And I'm using acrylic paper, so you can see I'm just freely painting these darks here. It's quite nice because it's quite a simple painting of tree branches, not necessarily the bird, but I've tried to keep the shape of the bird as simple as possible, and that's why I loved the reference photograph. So what I'm doing here now is I'm mixing up a little bit of blue and yellow with a touch of the Paynes grey, and just sort of scumbling that on damp into damp into the acrylic paint there, using a little bit more of the Paynes grey here and just painting on. So you're working dark to light, building up those tonal values, creating depth and texture in your painting. So I'm going to allow the branches to dry off. While they're drying off, I'm painting some buff titanium onto the bird. And if you don't have buff titanium, you could use white and add a little bit of yellow ochre with a tiny touch of black, or Paynes grey. So it just sort of, it's more of a neutral sort of light colour. You don't want it pure white. I will be using pure titanium white later, but I want to sort of build up these tonal values first. So I'm using a flat 1/2 inch brush, and I'm just adding a little bit of burnt sienna and a little bit of black, and I'm just blending wet into wet this dark shade towards the bottom part here, and using my fingertips to blend, but you can use the brush to do this as well. I just quite like it. I feel more in control almost. And I'm painting a little bit of shading just under his eye here as well. Just, remember with acrylics, you can let it dry, paint over the top. If you go wrong, it's not a problem. So I'm going to start painting the wings now with a little bit of Paynes grey with a touch of blue, using a small round detail brush, but use the brush that you feel comfortable to use, something that you like to make marks with. Don't be too guided by me, because I think everyone's different in that way. But I quite like using this just for the details, because I'm a little bit slapdash. I sort of throw paint on, and something here with the bird, it's a little bit more refined, and I just wanted to control my slapdash nature and just have sort of these more refined marks here, so I didn't lose the shape of the bird or the drawing as well. So I'm adding a little bit of the cyan blue, touch of Paynes grey, touch of white for a cool outside colour on the outside of the bird, actually, keeping the inside a little bit darker, blending the beak as well with this sort of mid to dark tonal value. And it's just fun to do as well. These little sort of shadings sort of bring the little nuthatch bird to life. You saw there, I add a little bit more pale blue as well there. So the painting has dried, and I'm using some scrunched up plastic, and I'm using a little bit of white and some Paynes grey, bit of green. It's a bit of what was on my palette really, but it's just a light colour, and I'm printing wet on dry with the plastic bag scrunched up some markings on the branches to create texture. And it's amazing. You can use a sponge for this as well, a scrubby brush, anything like that to create that texture. This is dark green, it's Paynes grey and yellow, and I'm using this small round brush and just sort of pulling out some texture on the edge of the branches there, and scumbling along there with this dark green to create marks on the branches, building up that texture. as you can see, I'm painting a little spatter there as well. Couldn't resist to create some texture. So you need to water down your paint in order to spatter. So I'm just painting a little bit of light now on the wing of the bird here and building up the darks as well using Paynes grey with my small round brush. So I'm just painting in some highlights there using some white. I've actually decided to turn the painting upside down just to paint the highlight in the eye. I just felt it was too far away from me, and it's such a small mark, but it makes such a difference. So less is more here, so don't overdo the detail here. It is very tempting, and I'm just going to add a few little white highlights on the edge of the bird's body there, and you can see that in the photograph as well. And that's why I love this photograph. It almost looked like a painting, and it inspired me. And birds are such obviously beautiful creatures, and I love the bird song in the background as well with the music as well. So I thought it would be quite nice to combine them both here. So I'm just sort of using this small brush and just painting little light areas here to create the look of feathers there, dry brush effect almost, building up the lights. I'm just using a very sort of light grey here to paint some shadows in the feathers here, using that small brush as well. So it's a mixture of Paynes grey, a little bit of the yellow and a touch of white as well. But you can just use some very sort of light tonal values there. I'm just smoothing out this beak. This is the trickiest area of the painting, so take your time. Don't rush it. But remember, if it does go wrong, you can use the background and paint over the beak that way if it does go wrong. I'm just painting some highlights on the bird's feet here as well, and just adding a little bit more white on the body here, really just to bring it out and to make it stand out from the background. If I was to give you one really good piece of advice, it would be this. Try to not use too much white at the beginning of the painting unless it's for a sky. Everything else, try to minimize it unless you're sort of trying to change the shade of a color, but don't use white on its own till the end, because when you leave it till the end, it really pops out and you keep your light. And I've found with my students, I still don't let them use white at the beginning. It makes such a difference. I'm actually printing now some white with the scrunched up plastic onto the dry surface of the branches here to really create that light texture. And what I'm doing now is I'm using my fingertips with some white watered down a little bit, touch of yellow in there as well, and painting a little bit more of this bokeh technique to create that sort of blurry look in the background, lifting and creating more light circles here. And if you want to, you can dilute it, as you can see there with my fingertips. You can also do this with a brush as well. And if you don't feel confident enough with sort of just doing circles haphazardly like the way I'm doing here, you could just draw them as well, different size circles. Just draw around objects. You know, you could draw around a penny or something like that to get sort of a circle. But I quite like this very free way of working here. So I'm just going to build up slowly with a dilute white and yellow mix to create this lovely bokeh background. Was so much fun to do, and you can do as many as you like as well. I'm finishing off with a spatter. It's only really just stopped me from painting. Here is the finished painting. I really hope you enjoy this tutorial with the background, creating that lovely blurry background with the bokeh technique, and then the little bird and the texture on the branches. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments section below. And if you don't want to miss any of my future videos, don't forget, if you haven't already, to subscribe to my YouTube channel for updates of my latest videos. Thank you so much for watching. Happy painting. Bye for now.